I'd like everyone to meet the man who changed my life." The room burst into applause. My smile stayed frozen as I stood near the back of the ballroom, still holding the small gift bag I had carried all evening. Inside it was a velvet ring box. 5 years. 5 years of memories suddenly felt lighter than the paper cup in my hand. Olivia stepped beside a tall man in a navy suit. His expensive watch caught the lights as easily as his confident smile caught everyone's attention. She rested her hand on his arm. Not mine, his. People surrounded them with congratulations, cameras, and laughter. Someone bumped into my shoulder. "Hey, aren't you from Olivia's college days?" I forced a polite smile. "Yeah, old friend." The word stuck in my throat. Before I could answer, another coworker laughed. I heard Daniel practically save the company. Guess that's why she's always talking about him. Daniel. So that was his name. I had seen it before. Late-night messages. Business dinners. Weekend meetings that somehow always lasted until midnight. Every time I asked, Olivia smiled. "You're worrying for nothing." I wanted to believe her. Love makes excuses before it accepts the truth. My phone buzzed. A message I had sent that afternoon still showed one gray check. "I'm here. Which table are you at?" Unread. The message above it was from yesterday. "Don't forget dinner tomorrow. I already bought everything you like." Unread. The one before that. "Good luck today. I'm proud of you." Unread. Weeks of hope stacked on top of each other like unopened letters. I slipped the phone back into my pocket. The ring box pressed against my fingers. Tonight wasn't supposed to end like this. Tonight was supposed to begin the rest of our lives. 5 years earlier, Olivia had cried outside the college library because she couldn't afford another semester. "I'll figure something out." She tried to smile through the tears. "I don't want my dreams to end here." Back then, I was working mornings at a coffee shop and evenings at a grocery store. Sleep became something I borrowed. Every paycheck disappeared almost as quickly as I earned it. Tuition, books, rent, little surprises to remind her someone believed in her. She always hugged me afterward. "When I graduate, it'll be our success." I believed every word. Sometimes love doesn't lie. Sometimes people simply become strangers. The applause pulled me back to the present. Music filled the room. Champagne glasses touched. Everyone celebrated. Everyone except me. Olivia finally noticed me standing near the entrance. Our eyes met. For one heartbeat, I thought she'd smile. Instead, something crossed her face. Not happiness. Not guilt. Embarrassment. She walked toward me. Each step made my heart beat faster. Maybe she'd explain everything. Maybe this was all a misunderstanding. She stopped a few feet away. "You came. I thought you'd invited me." "I did." Her voice stayed calm, professional, like we were discussing tomorrow's weather. "I've been trying to reach you. I've been busy." I noticed. The words came out softer than I expected. "I just wanted to know what happened to us." She glanced around. Several coworkers were already watching. Daniel remained across the room, talking with executives. Olivia folded her arms. "There isn't an us anymore." The sentence landed harder than a slap. "What do you mean?" A long breath escaped her. "I've changed. I know people change." "No." Her head moved slowly. "You don't understand." Another coworker walked past. "Everything okay?" Olivia answered with a quick smile. "Just clearing up an old misunderstanding." Old misunderstanding. Was that what 5 years had become? I stared at her. "What am I to you now?" She hesitated, only for a second. Then the words arrived. "My biggest mistake." The hallway outside the ballroom suddenly felt very far away. The music kept playing. People kept laughing. Someone nearby accidentally dropped a glass. Nobody realized my entire future had just shattered. I searched her face for any sign she didn't mean it. There was nothing. Only distance. Only certainty. Daniel finally approached. "You ready?" Olivia nodded. He noticed me. "Everything all right?" She answered before I could open my mouth. "He's just someone I used to know." Used to know. Not boyfriend. Not partner. Not the man who spent years building her dreams. Someone I used to know. Daniel offered me a polite handshake. "Nice meeting you." My hand never moved. He lowered his own without another word. Olivia adjusted her jacket. We should go. I waited. 1 second. 2. 3. Maybe she'd stop. Maybe she'd turn around. Maybe she'd remember everything we survived together. Instead, she reached into her phone, tapped the screen. My own phone vibrated. I looked down. Her conversation had disappeared. Contact unavailable. She had deleted me while standing right in front of me. Not later. Not privately. Now. As if erasing me from her life couldn't wait another minute. She walked away beside Daniel. Neither of them looked back. The drive home felt endless. Streetlights passed across the windshield like slow-moving memories. My apartment welcomed me with complete silence. The dining table was already prepared. Candles. 2 plates. The pasta Olivia loved. It had gone cold hours ago. A small chocolate cake waited in the refrigerator. Written in white icing were 3 simple words. Our next chapter. My knees almost gave out. I sat alone. The food stayed untouched. Steam had disappeared long ago. Just like hope. The ring box rested beside my plate. I finally opened it. A simple diamond reflected the kitchen light. Nothing expensive. Months of overtime had paid for it. Enough to promise forever. Not enough to compete with status. Near midnight, my sister Grace called. Her voice sounded unusually careful. Ethan, you knew. A long pause answered first. I didn't know everything, but you knew something. I heard Olivia talking last month. My grip tightened around the phone. What did she say? Grace hesitated. She told someone she had already moved on. Another painful pause. She said being with you made her feel small. Those words hurt even more than the ones Olivia had spoken herself. After the call ended, I couldn't stay inside. The apartment felt too full of memories. I walked through empty streets until I reached the river. Dark water moved quietly beneath the bridge. I pulled a ring from my pocket. My arm lifted. 1 throw. That was all it would take. The ring deserved better than becoming a reminder. So did I. My fingers opened, then stopped. I closed my hand around the ring, held it so tightly the edges pressed into my skin. A shaky breath escaped into the cold night. One day. The words barely rose above a whisper. One day, this won't hurt anymore. My phone rang. Unknown number. For a moment, I almost ignored it. Instead, I answered. Hello. A warm voice came through the speaker. Good evening. Am I speaking with Ethan Carter? Yes. My name is Rebecca from Bright Horizon Creative. My heartbeat slowed. We received your portfolio last month. I had almost forgotten applying. We'd like to invite you for an interview. I stared across the river. Our new office is in Brookhaven. Another city. Another chance. Are you still interested? The train doors closed before I could change my mind. My old city slowly disappeared behind the window. Every mile carried me farther from the woman I had loved and closer to a future I couldn't imagine. The ring stayed inside my backpack, not because I still believed she would come back, because I wasn't ready to decide what that piece of metal meant. Grace sat across from me, pretending to read a magazine. She lowered it just enough to catch me staring outside. You've been looking through that window for 30 minutes. It feels strange. It should. A small smile crossed her face. You're finally doing something for yourself. What if I fail? She reached across the table and squeezed my wrist. You already survived losing the person you loved most. Her voice stayed calm. What exactly are you afraid of now? I couldn't answer. Maybe because she was right. Maybe because I had spent so many years living for someone else's dream that I no longer knew what mine looked like. When the train reached Brookhaven, Grace hugged me outside the station. She stepped back and brushed imaginary dust from my jacket. Call me when you unpack. I will. And Ethan, I waited. If anyone ever makes you feel small again, don't waste another 5 years trying to prove your worth. She walked away before I could respond. Those words stayed with me long after her taxi disappeared. Bright Horizon Creative looked much larger than it had in the interview photos. Glass walls, busy offices, people carrying tablets instead of paper folders. Everything moved faster than the life I had left behind. A receptionist handed me a visitor badge. Mr. Carter, that's me. Your orientation starts in 5 minutes. My palms were damp. Every person walking past looked more experienced than I was. Maybe they had made a mistake hiring me. A familiar voice interrupted my thoughts. "You must be Ethan." A man around 40 extended his hand with an easy smile. "I'm Nathan Reed." He wasn't loud. He didn't try to impress anyone. Something about him made the room feel less intimidating. "I'm leading the creative division." "It's nice to meet you." He glanced at my portfolio. "I've already seen your work." I waited for the criticism. Instead, he smiled. "You notice details other people ignore." Nobody had ever described me that way. "I just try my best." Nathan chuckled. "Good." He motioned toward the office. "Let's see what your best can do." The first few months tested every part of me. Projects failed. Clients rejected designs. Deadlines arrived before I felt ready. Many nights ended with me alone under the office lights, while everyone else had already gone home. Sometimes I stared at the computer screen without moving. The old voice returned. "You're not good enough. You're replaceable. You're only here because they needed someone." One evening, Nathan walked past my desk carrying 2 cups of coffee. He placed one beside my keyboard. "You've been here since 7. So have you." He laughed. "Fair point." His eyes landed on the unfinished presentation. "What's stopping you?" "I'm trying to make it perfect." He folded his arms. "Perfect usually arrives after finished." That sentence stayed in my mind for weeks. Life slowly found a rhythm. Work, sleep, learn, repeat. The apartment I rented was small enough that I could cross it in 10 steps. But it was mine. The landlord handed me the key on my first day. I stood inside the empty living room longer than necessary. No pictures, no shared furniture, no memories waiting around every corner. Just quiet walls and a chance to begin again. I placed my suitcase beside the couch. The ring box came out next. After staring at it for a long moment, I opened my desk drawer. The box disappeared inside. The drawer clicked shut. That wasn't hope anymore. It was a reminder. Never build your whole future around someone who isn't building one with you. Months turned into a year. Then another. One promotion became 2. Clients started requesting me by name. The confidence still felt unfamiliar, but it no longer felt impossible. One afternoon, Nathan called me into his office. Several project reports covered his desk. He slid one toward me. "Recognize these?" "My campaigns." "Exactly." He leaned back in his chair. "Do you know why they're outperforming everyone else's?" I shrugged. "I've been lucky." He smiled, though not because he agreed. "No." He tapped the papers. "Luck doesn't solve problems this consistently." I stayed quiet. "These ideas came from you." He let that sentence breathe. "You connect with people because you design for real emotions." My throat tightened. "I've never thought of myself as special." Nathan shook his head. "That's because you've spent too much time listening to people who never understood your value." His words landed deeper than he probably realized. You don't need anyone's permission to believe in yourself. Walking back to my desk felt different. The hallway hadn't changed. I had. That evening I opened my phone during dinner. My thumb moved out of habit. Social media. Search. Olivia Bennett. Her profile appeared instantly. Vacation photos. Business events. Expensive restaurants. Smiling beside people I didn't know. Months earlier, those pictures would have ruined my night. Now, they simply looked like someone else's life. I opened my contacts. Her number still waited there. One final piece of the past. The screen asked a simple question. Delete contact? My thumb hovered over the button. Memories rushed through my mind. College libraries. Late-night study sessions. Cheap coffee. Birthday surprises. Promises. Then another memory replaced them. My biggest mistake. The answer became easy. I pressed delete. The contact disappeared forever. The world didn't stop. Nothing dramatic happened. Dinner tasted exactly the same. Outside, traffic continued moving. Inside, something finally became lighter. 3 years passed. Then 4. Responsibility kept growing. So did my team. New employees started asking me for advice. Sometimes I smiled at the thought. Not long ago, I had doubted every decision I made. Now others trusted mine. Grace visited one weekend. She walked around my apartment with folded arms. Not bad. It's still smaller than yours. She pointed toward the office in the corner. You've got the view, though. After dinner, she noticed me unlocking the desk drawer. What are you looking for? I held the velvet box for a second, then placed it back inside, just making sure I haven't forgotten why I came here. Grace nodded without another question. She already understood. The 5th year arrived almost quietly. I had stopped counting anniversaries of heartbreak, stopped wondering where Olivia was, stopped imagining impossible conversations. Work had become more than a distraction. It had become purpose. One Friday morning, the executive board called everyone into the conference hall. The CEO stepped onto the stage. We're announcing a new regional director. My coworkers clapped before hearing the name. The CEO smiled toward me. Ethan Carter. The room erupted. Someone patted my shoulder. Another person whistled from the back. Nathan stood near the stage with the proud smile of a teacher watching a student surpass expectations. Later that afternoon, he shook my hand. You earned every bit of this. No. I smiled. You helped me believe I could. The next morning, I walked into my new office before sunrise. The nameplate on the door still looked unreal. Regional Director. Mine. A gentle knock interrupted my thoughts. The HR manager stepped inside, carrying a folder. Congratulations again. Thank you. She placed a folder on my desk. One more thing. I opened it. Our new department manager starts today. I glanced at the paperwork. The name meant nothing until I reached the last line. Olivia Brooks. My hand froze above the page. The morning suddenly felt much quieter than before. My new department manager has arrived. The message from HR was still open on my computer when another notification appeared. Conference room, 10 minutes. I straightened my tie and picked up my notebook. The office door closed behind me with a soft click. My name was engraved on the polished metal plate outside. Ethan Carter, Regional Director. 5 years ago, I couldn't even imagine seeing my own name on an office door. Today, I barely noticed it. Success has a strange way of becoming ordinary after enough hard work. People were already gathering around the conference table. Someone waved. Morning, Ethan. Morning. Another manager smiled. Congratulations again on the promotion. Thank you. I took my usual seat near the head of the table. The chair across from me remained empty. The HR manager stepped inside. Our new department manager just arrived. Every conversation stopped. The door opened. A woman walked in carrying a folder against her chest. Her hair was shorter now. The expensive confidence she once wore had disappeared. Dark circles rested beneath tired eyes. She looked older than 30. Not because of age, because regret always adds years. She glanced around the room. Then our eyes met. Her steps stopped. The folder almost slipped from her hands. Ethan? My heartbeat stumbled for one brief moment. Years of discipline quickly buried the surprise. I stood. Good morning. The room stayed quiet. Welcome to Bright Horizon. She blinked several times. I didn't know. No problem. I motioned toward the empty chair. Please have a seat. Everyone else looked between us without understanding. Olivia lowered herself into the chair as if the floor beneath her had become unsteady. She barely touched the folder for the rest of the meeting. The presentation began. Sales numbers, new campaigns, budget discussions. Normally, I enjoyed these meetings. Today, every sentence carried another layer beneath it. Whenever someone asked Olivia a question, she answered professionally. Still, her voice lacked its usual confidence. Once she accidentally called me Etha. She caught herself. Mr. Carter. Nobody reacted except me. I simply continued reviewing the reports. The meeting ended an hour later. People gathered their laptops and coffee cups. Olivia stayed in her seat. The room slowly emptied until only the two of us remained. She finally stood. I didn't know this was your company. It's not. I closed my notebook. I work here. You know what I mean? A long pause stretched between us. I've wanted to explain. I have another meeting. The words weren't cold, just honest. Her shoulders dropped slightly. Oh. She stepped aside so I could reach the door. Welcome to the team. That was all. No anger. No accusations. No revenge. Somehow that seemed to hurt her more. By lunchtime, the office had already started whispering. I passed two designers near the elevator. Did you notice this morning? They definitely know each other. It felt strange. Their voices stopped the moment they noticed me. I smiled politely. Good afternoon. Both quickly returned the greeting. Nobody dared ask questions directly. Professional workplaces survive on quiet curiosity. That afternoon, Nathan Reed walked into my office carrying two coffees. One cup landed on my desk. The other stayed in his hand. You handled yourself well. I didn't realize you knew. He nodded. HR mentioned there might be history. Nathan leaned against the window. Are you all right? I thought about the answer. I don't know. He smiled. That's more honest than pretending everything is fine. He lifted his coffee. If you need me to move departments around, I can. No. I shook my head. She earned the position. And you? I earned mine. Nathan's smile widened. Exactly. Days became a week. Work never slowed. Neither did Olivia's quiet attempts to speak with me. She waited near the elevator one evening. Do you have 5 minutes? My next meeting starts soon. It'll only take a moment. I checked my watch. Not today. Another afternoon, she caught up with me in the parking garage. I've been trying to reach you. I noticed. Please. Her voice nearly disappeared. I just want one conversation. I unlocked my car. When work requires it, my office door is always open. And outside work, the answer came naturally. I don't bring my personal life into the office. She remained standing beside her car while I drove away. The rumors eventually reached me. Not through gossip, through concern. One of my team leaders knocked on my office door. Everything okay? Of course. He hesitated. Some people think the new manager upset you. I smiled. The only thing upsetting me right now is next month's deadline. He laughed with relief. That's the Ethan we know. After he left, I stayed still for a moment. The Ethan we know. Those words mattered. Years ago, people knew me as Olivia's boyfriend. Now they knew me as someone worth following. A week later, the marketing department organized a charity event. Employees volunteered after work. I helped carry supplies into the community center. Several interns struggled with heavy boxes. Leave those. I picked up two myself. We'll finish faster together. One young employee looked surprised. You really don't have to do this. Neither do you. I smiled. But here we are. Across the room, Olivia quietly watched everything. Later that evening, I overheard two coworkers talking. Our director never acts like he's above anyone. That's why everyone respects him. Respect. The very thing Olivia once mistook for weakness. She kept staring at me as those words reached her. There was no jealousy in her face, only realization. A few days later, Nathan invited me into his office. He closed the door before speaking. I need to tell you something. His tone became more careful. It's about Olivia. I stayed silent. He slid a file across the desk. Her previous employer gave us additional references. I opened it. One sentence immediately caught my attention. Left after organizational restructuring. Nathan folded his hands. Do you know who became vice president there? I already knew. Daniel. He nodded. Apparently, he built relationships using her connections. Nathan sighed quietly. When promotions came, she wasn't included. What happened to them? They married. Another pause. They divorced less than 2 years later. The room suddenly felt smaller. Why? No official reason. Nathan looked toward the window. From what I heard, once he reached the top, he didn't need her anymore. The irony settled heavily inside me. She had traded loyalty for ambition. Then ambition abandoned her. I didn't feel happy. I didn't feel angry. Mostly, I felt tired. That night, I stayed late finishing reports. The office was almost empty. As I walked toward the elevators, something caught my attention. A coffee cup sat outside my office door. Still warm. No note. No name. Just my favorite order. Black coffee. 1 spoon of sugar. She still remembered. I carried the untouched cup into the break room. A security guard looked up. Not drinking it, I smiled politely. I've had enough coffee today. The cup stayed behind. Just like the past. The following weekend, I cleaned old storage cabinets in my office. Most of the shelves held forgotten project files. One worn notebook slipped from the top shelf and fell onto the floor. several papers scattered. Among them was an old company event photo from years ago. It had somehow ended up inside the notebook after I moved offices. There I was, standing beside Nathan, smiling nervously during my first month. On the back someone had written a sentence: "Believe in yourself before asking others to." Nathan's handwriting. I folded the photo and placed it inside my wallet. Some reminders deserve to stay. Others deserve to be left behind. Rain covered the city late Monday evening. Most employees had already gone home. I unlocked my office door after checking the last financial report. The desk lamp was still on. Something small rested beside my keyboard. A velvet ring box. My breath caught. Slowly, I picked it up. The lid was already open. Inside rested the engagement ring I had almost thrown into the river 5 years ago. A soft voice came from the doorway. "I found this." Olivia stood there with rainwater still clinging to her coat. Her eyes never left my face. "I don't understand." I held the ring carefully. "I never told you it existed." The engagement ring rested between us. Neither of us reached for it. Rain tapped softly against the office windows while the city lights blurred into streaks of silver. Olivia stood near the door with her hands locked together. "I found it inside an old storage box when the company moved your files." Her voice barely carried across the room. I almost threw it away. My fingers brushed the edge of the velvet box. "But you didn't." A sad smile appeared for only a second. "No." Another quiet pause settled over the office. "I guess I've already thrown away enough." I closed the box without putting it in my pocket. "What did you want to tell me?" She took a slow breath. The words seemed trapped somewhere between her heart and her throat. "I've practiced this conversation 1,000 times. And now none of those words sound good enough." She walked closer, stopping on the opposite side of my desk. "My parents hated the idea of us." That wasn't the answer I expected. "They thought you were kind. They also thought kindness couldn't pay bills." Her eyes drifted toward the floor. "My father kept saying I would waste my future if I stayed with you." Old memories began fitting together. The sudden distance. The canceled dates. The strange phone calls she never wanted me to hear. He threatened to cut me off. She rubbed her hands together as if she could erase the memory. No tuition. No apartment. No support. "I should have told you." The office stayed quiet while I let those words settle. "You never did." I was ashamed. Her shoulders lowered. I kept thinking I could fix everything by myself. Instead, she chose the easier road. They introduced me to Daniel. The name no longer carried anger. Only history. My parents loved him. She let out a tired laugh. Successful. Confident. Connected. They called him my future. And me. Her eyes filled with tears she refused to let fall. "They called you a delay." The sentence hurt. Not because it was new. Because someone had convinced her to believe it. I told myself leaving you would hurt less than losing my family. She closed her eyes for a moment. I kept repeating that lie until I believed it. My hand rested on the ring box. "You could have trusted me. I know. You could have fought for us. I know. You could have let me choose with you." This time she couldn't answer. Some truths don't have defenses. Only consequences. I thought success would make everything worth it. She looked around my office. The promotions came. The money came. The big apartment came. Her smile disappeared. But every celebration felt empty. She swallowed hard. Every time something good happened, I wondered what you would have said. I told myself not to think about you. It never worked. I listened without interrupting. 5 years ago, I would have begged for this conversation. Today, I simply wanted the truth. I wasn't happy with Daniel. She reached into her bag and carefully placed a folder on my desk. Divorce papers. The final page carried both signatures. He loved winning. Not people. He used everyone. Another deep breath escaped her. When he needed my business contacts, I was important. When he reached the position he wanted, she didn't finish. She didn't have to. I became replaceable. The irony didn't need explaining. She had once made me feel exactly the same. I understand what happened. My voice stayed calm. But understanding isn't the same as undoing it. A tear finally escaped down her cheek. "I know. I don't expect you to erase the past." She looked at the ring. "I just wanted you to know why." I nodded slowly. "Thank you for telling me." She waited. Maybe expecting another answer. Maybe hoping for something more. There wasn't anything else. The past had finally explained itself. It still couldn't change itself. A week later, the company's legal department called an emergency meeting. Nathan stood beside the conference screen with several investigators. The audit is complete. Documents filled the table. Financial reports, transfer records, emails. One name appeared again and again. Daniel Brooks. He had manipulated company contracts at his previous employer. He had used other employees' accounts to hide missing funds. Several careers had been damaged while he climbed higher. Nathan looked around the room. We're cooperating fully with the investigation. Nobody spoke. After the meeting ended, Olivia remained seated. The color had drained from her face. I signed some of those reports. You trusted him. I never checked. Her voice shook. I thought marriage meant trust. It should. She covered her mouth. I helped someone hurt innocent people without even knowing. I placed a bottle of water in front of her. You weren't the one who stole. But I looked away. Regret sounded different now. Not because she had lost me, because she had finally seen the cost of blind ambition. Several days later, I visited the legal office. One document accidentally slipped from Olivia's employee file while the clerk searched for another form. A hospital admission record. The date was 2 years earlier. Emergency contact. None. The empty space under that line stayed with me. Someone surrounded by wealth. Someone married. Someone with parents still alive. Yet when she entered a hospital, she had no one she trusted enough to write down. Life had become much lonelier than she ever imagined. Another unexpected truth reached me that same afternoon. Grace called. I've been cleaning old boxes. What did you find? The receipt. What receipt? The payment for Olivia's student loans. I leaned back in my chair. I forgot about that. Grace laughed softly. You forgot paying almost 2 years of debt? I never planned to tell anyone. You especially never planned to tell her. Because it wasn't a gift. It was love. After hanging up, I stared at the city outside my window. Back then, I had quietly used nearly every extra paycheck to reduce her student debt. I asked the bank to keep my name private. I never wanted gratitude. I simply wanted her future to be lighter. She had never known. That evening, Olivia stopped by my office. She noticed the old receipt still lying beside my notebook. Her eyes narrowed. What's this? I hesitated. It doesn't matter anymore. She picked it up before I could move it. The silence that followed lasted much longer than any conversation. Her hands began trembling. This account number. She looked up. My student loan? I didn't answer. The paper already had. You paid this. It was a long time ago. Her breathing became uneven. My parents told me the bank had offered a special adjustment. I smiled faintly. It was easier that way. She stared at the receipt as if it belonged to someone else. You never told me. There wasn't a reason. Why? The question sounded almost painful. Because I loved you. Nothing else needed explaining. She slowly lowered herself into the chair. I spent years believing nobody would ever love me without expecting something back. A tear landed on the receipt. The whole time, you already had. I gently took the paper from her shaking hands and folded it. That doesn't make you owe me anything. She covered her face. It makes everything worse. No. I placed the receipt inside a drawer. It simply makes the truth complete. She finally understood what she had walked away from. Not money, not comfort, unconditional love. The company charity gala arrived 2 weeks later. Employees volunteered to raise money for children's education. Music played softly while guests moved between tables. I spent most of the evening speaking with donors. As I stepped away from the stage, Sophia from our community outreach team approached with a warm smile. You've been working all night. So have you. She laughed. I finally convinced you to take a 5-minute break. She held out her hand. Come on. There's a group photo waiting. Without thinking, I placed my hand in hers. It felt natural, simple, peaceful. Across the ballroom, Olivia stood completely still. Our eyes met for only a second. Then she looked down at our joined hands. No tears, no dramatic scene, just quiet understanding. At that moment, she finally realized something that no apology could ever repair. She hadn't lost me on the day she left. She had lost me one choice at a time. And now, someone else was gently leading me toward a future she would never be part of. The resignation letter was waiting on my desk before sunrise. I recognized the handwriting immediately. Olivia. No dramatic note. No long explanation. Just one page. At the bottom, she had written a single sentence. Thank you for treating me with more kindness than I deserved. I read it twice before setting it down. The office was still quiet. Only the soft sound of the heating system broke the silence. A gentle knock came from the open door. Olivia stood there holding a small cardboard box. I thought you'd be here early. I usually am. She stepped inside. The box held a framed photo, a coffee mug, a notebook, and a small plant that had nearly dried out. Everything she had brought to make the office feel like home. Now it looked like someone packing the last pieces of a life that no longer fit. I wanted to leave before everyone arrived. I nodded. Probably easier that way. She smiled faintly. For both of us. She placed another item on my desk. The velvet ring box. I think this belongs with you. I looked at it for a long moment. Then I gently pushed it back toward her. It doesn't. Confusion crossed her face. You bought it. I did. And it was meant for me. It was. My hands rested calmly on the desk. But that ring belongs to a future that never happened. She stared at it without touching it. What should I do with it? A quiet breath escaped me. Sell it. Donate it. Throw it into a river. It doesn't matter. What matters is that neither of us keeps living inside that day. Her eyes grew wet again. Not from surprise. From acceptance. She slowly closed the box. I understand. This time, I believed her. She remained standing for another moment. There was something else. I leaned back in my chair. I'm listening. Her fingers tightened around the cardboard box. I've apologized many times in my head, but apologies started feeling selfish. She searched for the right words. I wanted forgiveness because I wanted relief. A small, painful smile appeared. That isn't fair to you. I stayed quiet. You deserved loyalty. You deserved honesty. You deserved someone who believed in you when life was difficult. She lowered her head. I failed every one of those things. The room felt unusually peaceful. Not because the conversation was easy, because nobody was hiding anymore. You know something strange? She looked up. I believe you. Her eyes widened. You do? Yes. And that's exactly why I can't go back. The words hurt us both. Not because they were cruel, because they were true. I spent years becoming someone new. I glanced around the office we had never imagined together. This life wasn't built from revenge. It was built from healing. If I walked backward now, I gently shook my head. I'd be betraying the man I fought so hard to become. She closed her eyes for a second. Then she nodded. I hoped that wouldn't be your answer. I know, but I always knew it probably would be. She reached into the box one final time. A small picture frame appeared. Our company team photo. She wasn't in it. The picture had been taken before she joined. Everyone was smiling, including me. I used to wonder why people respected you so much. Her thumb brushed the edge of the frame. Now I understand. She placed it beside me. You never became successful to prove me wrong. You simply became yourself. That compliment meant more than she probably realized. Years ago, I would have traded everything to hear words like those. Today they brought gratitude instead of longing. Before leaving, she stopped at the doorway. There is one sentence I need to say. She turned toward me. The biggest mistake wasn't loving you. A tear rolled down her cheek.